The honourable member for Wellington Halton Hills.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, 1 week ago, the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians released its report, which contained its findings. This report came after more than a year of work by the committee. They reviewed some 33,000 pages from some 4,000 classified documents. They were briefed and they interviewed dozens of top intelligence and government officials, including the Prime Minister himself. The report found that a few members of this House are witting participants in the efforts of foreign states to interfere in our politics. Madam Speaker, this is shocking. Le rapport a révélé que les parlementaires.
The report revealed that parliamentarians had responded to the requests or direction from foreign officials to improperly influence parliamentary colleagues or parliamentary business to the advantage of a foreign state. The committee also concluded in its report that some members of Parliament of this place violated their oath of allegiance when they became members of Parliament.
Examples. And Madam Speaker, I will be quoting from the report. The report found examples of, quote, members of Parliament who worked to influence their colleagues on India's behalf and proactively provided confidential information to Indian officials, end quote. The report found a, quote, textbook example of foreign interference that saw a foreign state support a witting politician, end quote. The report found that a, quote, particularly concerning case of a then Member of Parliament maintaining a relationship with a foreign intelligence officer, end quote. Madam Speaker, this Member of Parliament sought to arrange a meeting in a foreign state with a senior intelligence official and also proactively provided the intelligence officer with information provided in confidence. The report found that the People's Republic of China had established a network that, quote, had contact with at least 11 candidates and 13 campaign staffers, some of whom appeared to be wittingly working for the People's Republic of China, end quote. The report also found similar activities by another network in the riding of Don Valley North. The report found parliamentarians had communicated frequently with foreign missions before or during a political campaign to obtain support from community groups or businesses which the diplomatic missions promised to quietly mobilize in their favor. The report found examples of parliamentarians accepting knowingly or through willful blindness funds or benefits from foreign missions or their proxies which had been layered or otherwise disguised to conceal their source. The report found that parliamentarians had provided foreign diplomatic officials with privileged information on the work or opinions of their fellow parliamentarians, knowing that such information would be used by those officials to inappropriately pressure parliamentarians to change their positions. The report found that parliamentarians had responded to the requests or direction of foreign officials to improperly influence parliamentary colleagues or parliamentary business to the advantage of a foreign state, and the report found that parliamentarians had provided information learned in confidence from the government to a known intelligence officer of a foreign state. What the report also found, Madam Speaker, was the identification of those parliamentarians who wittingly and knowingly collaborated with foreign governments to the detriment of Canada and the people of Canada. But, Madam Speaker, we do not know the identities of those members of this House who wittingly and knowingly worked in favor of the interests of a foreign government to the detriment of Canada and to the detriment of the people of Canada. That's because the report was ordered redacted by the Prime Minister under Section 21, subsection 5 of the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians Act. Madam Speaker, every single member of this chamber swore an oath or made a solemn affirmation that he or she would be faithful and bear true allegiance to the sovereign. Every single member swore that oath or made that solemn affirmation. What we swore to, or what we solemnly affirmed, was to be faithful and to bear true allegiance to our constitutional system, a constitutional system enshrined in the Constitution Acts, in orders in council, in rulings of the Supreme Court of Canada and the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council, in the unwritten conventions that have long governed Parliament and parliamentary democracies for centuries. In other words, we swore or solemnly affirmed that our first and foremost duty was to the people of Canada. Madam Speaker, the committee found in its report that a few members of this chamber violated that oath or that solemn affirmation. Those members need to be held accountable. Those members who willingly and knowingly and wittingly assisted a foreign government to the detriment of members of this place and their privileges, to the detriment of the interests of Canada, and to the detriment of the people of Canada, need to be expelled from this House. And the way expulsions work in this place is that all 337 members of this chamber need to vote in public after a debate on expulsion. And Madam Speaker, I have had the difficult experience of participating in exactly a debate like that on a former member several parliaments ago. Not a pleasant thing to do, but a thing necessary to protect the integrity of this institution. And Madam Speaker, it shouldn't just be a criminal standard to which we are held in this place. The oaths and solemn affirmations we take are to the people of Canada. Our conduct needs to be becoming of those oaths and affirmations. Canadians also need to be able to go to polls in the next election knowing whether or not their incumbent member of Parliament was one of those few parliamentarians referred to in the report. That is why the Prime Minister needs to name the names of those members, along with the relevant information, to allow this House, its caucuses, and its committees to hold those parliamentarians accountable, to take action to protect the integrity of this place. And that brings us to the motion in front of the House today. We once again find ourselves in a situation that we did a year and a half ago, that we did 3 years ago, that we did 4 years ago, where the government is not willing to respect the norms of parliamentary democracy and to provide this House and its committee with the information necessary for this House and its committees to do their constitutional role. The government is not willing to release this information. A year ago, we ended up in the same situation. We began debate and hearings on investigations related to foreign interference in this House and its committees in 2020. In November 18th of 2020, a motion that I had moved was adopted by this House calling on the government to produce a robust action plan to respond to the threats of foreign interference. And in the subsequent years of 2021, 2022, 2023, 4 committees of this House, the Procedure and House Affairs Committee, the Canada-China Committee, the Foreign Affairs Committee, and the International Committee Subcommittee on International Human Rights, conducted hearings, some 70 meetings, 364 witnesses, 152 hours of testimony, and some 1,902 pages of evidence trying to get to the bottom of foreign interference. And a year ago, the government punted it to NCCOP. Well, NCCOP has done its job and reported its report, which contained the names of members of this House who knowingly and wittingly assisted a foreign state to the detriment of the interest of the people of Canada. And here we are again with the government refusing to release the information. So we are once again left with having to go to an extra parliamentary process to get this referred to Justice Ogue, Commissioner Ogue, at the public inquiry so that we can get to the bottom of this, we can understand who was involved, and action by this House can be taken. Madam Speaker, we had the same problem with the Winnipeg lab documents. It took us 3 years to get that information. We had to resort to an extra parliamentary process through the ad hoc committee to get that done. Madam Speaker, we support the block motion, but I would like to move an amendment to the motion as follows. And the amendment reads, J'ai un amendement pour, mais nous appuyons la motion.
We support the motion of my honourable bloc colleagues, but we have an amendment for them in a spirit of collaboration.
Replacing paragraph C with the following. C, demand that the government provide the unredacted version of the special report together with all the intelligence documents and testimony which the committee considered to the public inquiry into foreign interference in federal electoral processes and democratic institutions, the Hogue Commission, and that the Hogue Commission's terms of reference be expanded in order: 1, to require the Hogue Commission, A, to assess the statements made at paragraphs 55 and 56, the text box following paragraph 57, and paragraphs 58, 59, 61, 64, 68, and 164 of the special report concerning officials who wittingly assisted, supported, or participated in the efforts of foreign states to interfere in Canadian politics. B, to question the individuals named or referred to in those paragraphs and, out of respect for procedural fairness, to offer those individuals the opportunity to make representations concerning the statements. C, to make findings of fact concerning these statements. And D, to produce and publish a report by October 1st, 2024 on these matters, including its findings of fact and the names of any current member of the House of Commons it concludes engaged in these foreign interference activities, so that this House may take appropriate remedial action. And 2, allow the Hogue Commission to investigate other foreign interference efforts in relation to Canada's federal democratic institutions, including members of the House of Commons elected in the 43rd and 44th Parliaments, as well as senators.